So the Great Spanish Blackout of 2025 came and went within hours. It was very fast, and yet there's a ton to be learned from it. Folks, as always, welcome to the Modern Survivalist channel. If you want to learn more about these topics, realistic, practical preparedness and survival, you have the channel with a lot of information, and I recommend these books of mine, Surviving the Economic Collapse, for the economic aspect of preparedness, and for this sort of stuff and a lot more, survival skills, which is a ton of practical survival skills that will be of great benefit if you find yourself in situations like these. Power outages, problems with infrastructure, social, economic issues, and a lot more. You're looking at a society that is fairly different probably from what you're used to, especially if you're watching this from the United States, which is where most of my English-speaking audience is, at least in my English channel. I have a Spanish channel, by the way. I publish my books in both English, Spanish, and as well French. And I have a good amount of connection with these different perspectives of preparedness. Well, one of the key things you need to understand is that Spain is really safe. Spain is about 10 times safer than the United States. Independently of where you happen to be, I get it. There's dangerous cities, and usually in the country it's going to be safer. But then again, it depends because there's some small towns in the country where there's quite a bit of crime too. But in general, there is data that points towards that. It is a lot safer than certainly a lot safer than the United States, and it shows when you have event like this one. Keep in mind, it was the entire country that went dark. The neighboring country, Portugal, also went dark. To the north, in the southern part of France, it also went dark. You're talking about a significant part of Western Europe going completely black and having no communications, no internet, no cell phones, other than some sporadic activity here and there. And yet, this is how these people handle that. This is probably what, Madrid, I guess. Yeah, there is Madrid. So getting darker, people were doing exactly what? Were they like looting? They were stealing everything they could. Keep in mind, this had been going on for several hours already. All right. It was several hours into this, and people already knew that it was nationwide blackout. People knew that phones were barely working. If that, there was pretty much no internet. It was very unusual situation, to say the least. Yet no one started looting anything. No one went to steal crap. Violence was not seen all over anywhere. Really, it was something. But it just shows you how different societies can be. They just said, okay, power is out. I guess I'll just sit here in this plaza and have a nice beer. One, I don't need a mug full of beer. I don't need 3 liters of beer. No, it's going to be a caña, which is like a little glass of cold beer. If it's still cold, sir, sure, yeah, we can take your cash. All right. The stores that did operate without electricity, because many of them could not, and that's what people did. They did not panic. They did not freak out. It was everything okay. And then power came up and everyone was happy. Even before that, they were freaking dancing in the streets. Just, yeah, okay, we can work, so we might and we cannot go online or see our cell phones. We might as well have a good time while at it. That's Spain. Now, that's great. But the reality is, and this is something that a lot of people commented in my Spanish channel, especially folks from the country where I come from, in Argentina, it was like, yeah, dude, call me when you go a week without power. Let me know how that works. Of course, it's completely different. Now, don't get me wrong. This was extremely bad. A nationwide blackout means that there were thousands of people trapped in different elevators, people trapped in trains. Spain has one of the largest networks of electric powered trains, high-speed trains. There was thousands of people trapped in different places. You just hanged out as well as you could and wait until things got back to normal. What would have been the case if it was not back to normal within a few hours? What if it was 24 hours? What if it was more than that? What if it was like so many people in Argentina and other places across South America said, like, yeah, what if it's a week? What is about 10 days? Are you going to be dancing all that much? Probably not. You're going to see a very different side of things, right? Now, it's going to be probably slower into violence. Again, it's not the culture of, wow, power went out, it's looting time, let's go steal some shit. No, different society, right? A lot less violence, a lot less crime. But people are still people. And if you don't have electricity, if you don't have communication, especially if you don't have water, which is something you usually will depend on power so as to pump water to where it's needed, people will get very violent. So we learned a lot of things. We learned that power outages suck. We learned that you can get trapped in an elevator. Let's be completely cool-headed and honest. You're not going to die, just drop dead because there's no power for 2 days or even 3. Probably as long as you have water, as long as you're not freezing to death, which may be a concern depending on exactly where you live. Madrid, yeah, no. This time of the year, you're going to be just fine. What about a more extended power outage in which you happen to be in a very cold region of the country or in a very cold part of the world, in a country where, well, hopefully you have ways of keeping yourself warm when power is out. Hopefully you have ways of keeping yourself cool when power is out as well. Spain will be particularly good for that because it is a country that's been around for thousands of years. Some of those houses are indeed that old. Hundreds of years, if not more. You're talking about a lot still of stone buildings, and even in the more modern places, and certainly that would be the case of Madrid, super beautiful modern city. Even then, it's not about the building you're just making now. It's about the streets. It's about the way everything has been laid out. All of that, especially in the old part of the city, it very much persists. So you do have a lot of skyscrapers, very tall buildings, but then you have a lot of the shorter ones where you can get around with stairs, couple flights of stairs. Not only that, you have a society that is very used to walking and taking public transportation everywhere. Even if you have a car, it is fairly common for people to just walk. That means that even older people, which is a society that is aging at an accelerated rate, like everywhere, but certainly the case in Spain and Italy, even more so than the average in Europe, even though it's bad everywhere. But those old people, 70-year-old Spanish, that guy will outwalk your average 20-year-old American. I will bet a kidney that's exactly the case. Yeah, no question whatsoever. 70-year-old, there's 80-year-old people they just keep on doing what they've been doing all of their lives. They go to the mercado walking back and forth all day long. They're used to walking. That keeps them a little bit leaner, a little bit more fit, and yeah, walking is not going to be a problem. Cities are designed that way from hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. People are used to move around that way. That makes it a lot more resilient when there's no power, when there's no gas, when there's no traffic lights, which was the case here. People organize, and even someone that was, I'll just help out. That's the kind of thing that happens when you have a more of a rule of law, a justice society, instead of thinking of, let's go apeshit and break everything, loot, burn, and steal. That will only last so long. And then it gets a little bit wilder. Then it gets to, people will behave in a very uncivilized way when pushed there. I think there's a lot to be learned here. I think these are lessons that not only apply to Spain and Europe, but certainly the United States as well. I mean, I'm not saying anything that most of you haven't gone through probably a few times already, right? Maybe not a week or 10, 15 days without power or water or stuff like that, but certainly power outages, storms, yes, certainly, for sure. And even civil unrest, and the idea of you needing to, know how to use those things that we have around us. It's about not just having them, but also knowing how to use them. And that may be something critical if things don't get better very quick. There's a bunch of weird stuff going on in the world right now. I've never seen it this way. I've been doing preparedness, this book of mine, I actually have it here. Published 2000, when was it? So 2009, when this was first published. The world has changed in ways we wouldn't have thought back then. And it's not all for the best. It's unfortunately not. Lots of things, it's getting, especially after COVID, lots of the things that we see in terms of what we understand is civilized, normal, acceptable behavior in Western societies. A lot of that has been changing, man. The way in which we go about, our values, our families, what even is a family at this point. These are all things that are now up in the air. And for this, you need to really prepare, not prepare in terms of, I'm going to go into the forest and use my bushcrafting skills, or, I have a ton of food stockpiled in my basement. We're looking at the more complex aspect of preparedness, what I like calling modern survivalism in this more, all-encompassing aspect of preparedness, which goes from social things, our families, our kids, how they're being brought up, our health, our economies, our jobs. All of this, right, is suffering massive changes. The threats to the livelihood of so many people due to AI, the idea of having a society in which you're not, there's a lot of people that are not going to be included anymore, and that will suck. If you have certain values, you're not going to be included anymore. If you have certain obsolete skills, you're not going to be included anymore. If you have not prepared and get ready for the more challenging times, I think it could be quite bad. So I honestly think it's now more than ever that you need to get serious, realistic about preparedness. It was a case that you could afford to screw around and be the doomsday prepper in your own mind about, I'm getting ready for the solar flare. I'm getting ready for the virus, which we actually had one, right? There was something out there, even though it was more used to enforce draconian, freedom restrictive regulations than anything else, rather than the actual virus itself. But we've gone through that. We got the shitty aspects of a global pandemic, all of the other cool shit a lot of people thought would happen because of what they saw on TV. Well, not so much of that, right? But it was pretty crazy. Folks, we are in interesting times. I think you need to prepare in the very serious, responsible manner that I honestly try to do it here. It's going to be about so many of those things that often are not even discussed in this community of ours. See you later.